All right, hang on just 1 second because you're not going to want to move to the San Francisco Peninsula before you know all the pros and all the cons of moving here in 2024. So here we go. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Kevin and I love helping people move to the San Francisco Peninsula from all over the country. So if you're planning to make a move, shoot me a text, send me a message, give me a call, or better yet, book a Zoom meeting at the link in the comments so that I can help you save a ton of time and make sure that you make a very smooth move to the Bay Area. So look, the San Francisco Peninsula is an amazing place to visit. It's an even more amazing place to live, but it's definitely not for everyone. Now, I've lived on the peninsula for pretty much my whole life. This area has been home to me for over 40 years. And if you've never lived here before, you're going to learn about some things that aren't so great about the peninsula, as well as good things about moving here as well. So I really want to break down some of the negatives as well as the positives so you can help decide if the San Francisco Bay Area, and in particular the peninsula, is ultimately the right home base for you. So let's start with the pros. The first pro of living on the peninsula, in my opinion, is the location. Now, the San Francisco Peninsula is surrounded by water on 3 sides. So we've got the Pacific Ocean and the San Francisco Bay. So we're living on a relatively narrow landmass. Now, the ocean in Northern California is going to have a very different look and feel than some of the beaches in the ocean in Southern California. The ocean here is definitely much colder. The water temps are in the 50s most of the year, and the ocean does tend to be a little bit more rough around here. But we have beautiful beaches here that are very close to the peninsula. You can take Highway 1 down from 280 to enter into Pacifica, Montara, and Moss Beach, or you can go over Highway 92 and head out to Half Moon Bay. There's excellent coastal access there, including the California Coastal Trail, which is near the Princeton Jetty, the El Granada Harbor, and there's several marine reserves like Fitzgerald Marine Reserve and Moss Beach. If you head south of Half Moon Bay, there's miles of beaches that can feel almost deserted at times, but they're beautiful, wild beaches that are super close to the peninsula and are less than an hour from pretty much any peninsula town. Now, a little pro tip, if you're moving to the peninsula, if you prefer a little bit of a cooler climate, you may find that the peninsula coastal cities might be a better fit for you. It's generally cooler at the coast, where it rarely gets hotter than about 85 degrees. It definitely stays cooler at the coast, and it's not as hot as the mid-peninsula and Santa Clara counties. The coast also tends to be a fair bit cheaper than the suburbs on the mid-peninsula, so keep that in mind, that moving out to the beach doesn't always equate to a higher price tag. And because we have so much water surrounding us, many of the homes on the peninsula have some amazing bay views. In areas like San Carlos to Burlingame, parts of Belmont and Millbrae, it's hard to spend much time on the peninsula and not notice a lot of the water that surrounds the area because the water is pretty much everywhere. Now, the peninsula location is also perfectly sandwiched between San Francisco and San Jose, so there's a ton of high-paying employment in this area. Much of the peninsula is where many people who work in tech or biotech choose to raise their families, with major biotech hubs in South San Francisco, and you're a short drive from the technology giants in Silicon Valley like Apple, Google, Facebook, Meta. The list goes on and on. And nowadays, San Francisco is basically the undisputed artificial intelligence capital of the world, with many AI companies that are well established in San Francisco. The peninsula is going to continue to be the area of choice for employees of these companies to want to live. So the location of the peninsula between San Francisco and San Jose could be a great spot for you if you're considering a move like that to move here. Now, there's also many quick hit type weekend getaways from the peninsula that can keep things interesting without having to jump on an airplane. A fan favorite weekend getaway is going to be to go to wine country. You can go to Napa or Sonoma. There's tons of wineries up there for you to check out. You can go to the hot springs or just get a room at one of the boutique hotels up there. The drive to Napa is really only about an hour and a half from most areas of the peninsula. We're also very close to Monterey and Santa Cruz and some of the coastal cities to the south. My family loves going down and camping in Big Sur and the Redwoods. You can, of course, head to the Sierra Nevada mountains. The city of Truckee, South Lake Tahoe is only 180 miles from San Francisco. And for a lot of people, that becomes a home base for skiing and snowboarding or winter activities in the Lake Tahoe area. Of course, Yosemite is not far away if you want to check out some waterfalls or go to some of the national parks that are there. You really can't miss. And these areas are close enough for just a weekend trip that doesn't require you to jump on an airplane and spend a fortune to take a vacation. So our location here will give you access to some really cool places, and you don't need to hop on a plane and fly somewhere to feel like you're on a vacation. But if you do want to fly somewhere, we have 3 international airports in the Bay Area. We have SFO, Oakland, and the San Jose Mineta International Airport. So travel is right here at your fingertips. All right, now my next pro of living on the San Francisco Peninsula is its cleanliness and overall safety. Now, like I've said before, I've lived on the peninsula for a long, long time, and I've never really felt scared or unsafe at any time living in any of these areas. Most of the mid-peninsula cities like Burlingame, San Mateo, San Carlos, and Redwood City tend to be upscale communities with a lot of families and kids, and overall just very desirable suburbs to live in. So compared to many areas of the Bay Area, these are some of the safer and cleaner areas that you're going to find anywhere. This is a big thing for a lot of people right now, especially since areas of San Francisco and Oakland are getting a lot of bad press regarding car break-ins, homelessness, and crime in some of the urban spots in the big cities. But the peninsula is really going to feel a world apart from those areas. We have nice shopping malls, places to eat, and downtown areas that are very well maintained. There's lots of parking, things are well lit up, so you're not going to be uncomfortable going to any of these spots. Now, there's not a ton of nightlife on the peninsula, but there are some fun bars and restaurants to go out late at night in areas like Palo Alto or Burlingame or San Mateo. And these areas do tend to be relatively safe if you want to have a night out on the town. So moving along, another great pro of living here is the many outdoor activities that are available to you. We were just talking about the local beaches. I love checking out the beaches around the peninsula in San Francisco and in San Mateo counties, and either running out for a quick surf or taking my dog to run around on the beach. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people who live on the peninsula that rarely ever go to the beaches. So if you want to live on the mid-peninsula, say between Burlingame and Redwood City, you're going to have other options. You will be near the Bay Trail in San Mateo and the Coyote Point Recreation Area. You can also use the trails near the Crystal Springs Reservoir, which is not far from any of the mid-peninsula towns like San Mateo, Belmont, or Hillsborough. We've got a little unique lake called Water Dog Lake. It's a fun trail system, and it's tucked right in between San Carlos and Belmont there. There's a ton of hiking and mountain biking on the peninsula, and also there's many public and private golf courses as well. So no shortages of things to do on the peninsula if you need to get out of the house. And we definitely have very mild temperatures here. We get very little rain in the summer months and relatively low humidity most of the year. But with that being said, we do have very dynamic weather patterns in San Mateo and San Francisco counties due to our close proximity to the Pacific Ocean. South San Francisco and the peninsula coastal cities often have a lot of wind and fog, and some of the northern peninsula communities like Daly City, South San Francisco, and Pacifica. But as you head down the peninsula, you'll find some areas that have excellent weather year-round. Redwood City in particular was voted as having the best weather in the country, and you'll actually see a sign on El Camino Real when you're entering Redwood City that says Climate Best by Government Test. So if you're planning to move here, you'll enjoy some of the best and some of the mildest weather in the whole country, and it makes it a really easy place to get outside. Just overall, the weather tends to keep people in a better mood and makes things just a tad more enjoyable if it's not crazy hot outside or having to deal with constant rain or really cold temperatures. Now, there are some big, beautiful parks on the peninsula to go to and take advantage of the mild climate. In Redwood City, there's Red Morton Park. San Mateo also has some large city parks close to their downtown, like Central Park and Beresford Park. San Carlos has a big, beautiful Burton Park. There's a very popular youth center there. Burlingame also just completed a community center. So there's a lot of places to go and things to do if you want to get outside with the dog and the kids. You're going to have plenty of options. Now, the final pro that I'll go over in this video is going to be the public schools. If you want to put your kids in some very well-regarded public schools, you definitely want to consider some of the peninsula neighborhoods. The peninsula has strong public schools compared to the rest of the state, and that's definitely something that draws a lot of families with kids to this area. Many people are surprised that the San Francisco Unified School District is on a lottery system, so you'll see a lot of families want to move down to the peninsula once they start a family. Certain suburbs in particular, like Burlingame, Millbrae, San Carlos, and Belmont, have very well-regarded public schools from kindergarten all the way through high school, but keep in mind that many of the schools are impacted, so you'll want to confirm with the district that your kids will be assigned to a specific school or district prior to signing a lease or purchasing a home. Okay, so we've gone over many of the great things about living here, but let's now explore some of the drawbacks of living in this beautiful place. So con number one is going to be the very high cost of living. Now, the absolute biggest drawback of living on the peninsula is the very high cost of living. To put some things in perspective, San Mateo County in the summer of 2024 had an average single-family home price of $1.6 million, and the average rent for just an 850 square foot apartment is north of $3,300 per month. San Francisco County also, not surprisingly, has a median home price of over $1.6 million. So if you're planning to move here, be prepared. If you're moving here from other areas of the country or even other areas of California, you may experience some sticker shock when it comes to the housing prices. But obviously, Everyone needs a roof over their head, so this is something that is currently a serious challenge, and it will likely continue to be challenging for years to come. Now, to dive a little deeper into the housing crisis that exists here, listen to some of these statistics. In terms of employment, since 2011, 531,000 new jobs have been created in the Bay Area, but during that time, only 123,800 new housing units have been created, which has caused a chronic housing shortage, and it's been especially challenging to affordable housing and middle-income families to secure a long-term place to live. In addition to housing challenges, the Bay Area in particular tends to cost much more compared to national averages for cost of living in terms of healthcare, transportation, and groceries, so the costs are significantly higher than the rest of the country. In most cases, about 30% more, with the exception of housing, which is going to be dramatically higher than the national average. Now, going down the list of high expenses, California also has the absolute highest state income taxes in the country. So if you're planning to move to the San Francisco Peninsula or the Bay Area, it's important to keep some of these high costs in mind and budget accordingly. The second con that I'm going to go over of living on the San Francisco Peninsula is going to be our exposure to natural disasters. Now, this is something that's not always talked about, and this is a big one. In the past couple of decades, the damage and threat of wildfires has been very real. We've had some major wildfires recently, and the peninsula can sometimes get very smoky. Sometimes this can be kind of a brutal time to live on the peninsula during wildfire seasons. It can take CAL FIRE weeks and sometimes months to get these bigger fires under control. And it can be quite scary knowing that the air is so hot and dry in parts of Northern California, and fires can really start and spread rapidly. Now, you've probably heard we're also in earthquake country, so a lot of the peninsula is what we call a seismic hazard zone. And we also have liquefaction zones in some of the areas of the peninsula like Foster City and in the Marina District of San Francisco, which people sometimes have concerns with. Going down the list of natural disasters, we also have a lot of flooding and some landslide prone areas due to all the hills on the peninsula. The flooding typically happens in some of the lower lying areas, and this can lead to serious challenges with insurance on the peninsula and really all throughout California. But right now, it's important to realize that a standard homeowners insurance policy will not cover wildfire or groundwater intrusion in most cases. So if you're in a high fire severity zone or if you're in a flood zone, your lender may require that you purchase flood or fire insurance, which can be costly. And it's best to keep in mind as a supplemental cost in the event that you're planning to make a move to an area that has exposure to wildfires or floods. Now, the final con that I'll discuss today is going to be traffic and congestion. So as we've talked about, the peninsula is a section of land that has water on three sides. So maneuvering around the peninsula down to Silicon Valley or up to San Francisco can be a bit tricky, and it's not uncommon to get stuck in some of the heavier trafficked areas during commute times. In my opinion, if you live here on the peninsula, you need a car. There are only two main freeways that traverse the length of the peninsula, and that's freeways 101 and 280. 101 goes along the bay down in the flats, while 280 goes through the hills, but they do run parallel to one another. So a lot of people that live on the peninsula have to commute to Silicon Valley or San Francisco or South San Francisco, and the public transportation on the peninsula is not quite as comprehensive as it could be. Now, we do have a train system called Caltrains that will go from San Jose all the way to the Soma district in San Francisco, and it does run all week. And this can be a convenient option if you're going to San Francisco, but it only goes to the Soma area near Oracle Park. If you need to get to other areas of the city, you're going to need to take a bus or a muni car, and that can also add additional time to your commute. If you're taking the bus and just trying to get around El Camino, which is a main thoroughfare on the peninsula, you can take the Samtrans buses. And while they do run very frequently, they do make a lot of stops and can be quite slow. We do also have an electric BART train that goes as far south as Millbrae on the peninsula and will take you into downtown San Francisco. The BART also connects the East Bay to San Francisco and Oakland as well, but you may have to drive to the BART and park before hopping on the BART train. Now, if you're in San Francisco and you're going to be working at one of the bigger tech companies or you need to get downtown, there's a good possibility that there's a tech bus that will pick you up and can plug into their Wi-Fi and have a cruisy little ride down to Apple, Meta, or Google, or EA Sports, or wherever you're headed in Silicon Valley if you need to get down to work from the city. Now, a lot of people that live in San Francisco really don't want to drive, and the public transit systems are better in the city, but they can be crowded and at times can even feel very expensive. The streetcars tend to be a good choice if you need to get from a neighborhood in the city down to the financial district or wherever you're headed. But be warned that driving in San Francisco is not for everyone. There's a lot of one-way streets, and if you're unfamiliar with the area, it can feel very congested and a bit hectic with a big city type driving experience. So there you guys have it. Those are the real pros and cons of living on the San Francisco Peninsula. I hope I was able to drop some knowledge. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I will be making more videos like this to help you make a smooth move to the San Francisco Peninsula. Again, my name's Kevin, and I'll see you again soon.